Hello everybody, Lamarck Russell here. So basically I'm going to do a quick video here about my analysis of the state of the Democratic nomination race for president so far. Okay, so I've done some math here and I wanted to analyze what Bernie Sanders' chance was at winning the nomination, kind of looking to see what kind of path he has to winning the nomination. Full disclosure, I'm a Hillary supporter, but I'm going to be as unbiased as I possibly can and use realistic numbers, okay? Any questions or comments, let me know. So basically, the Democrats have a total of 4,765 delegates, okay? These are the people who vote at the National Convention that's going to be coming up in late July in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, okay? So, in order to win a nomination, you need a majority of those delegates. That's more than half, okay? So, the least amount that's over half is 2383. So, a candidate needs to win 2,383 delegates in order to win a nomination, all right? Now, there are two kinds of delegates. There are pledged delegates and there are super delegates. The pledged delegates are delegates that you win in the nomination contest with voting. So, for example, a state might have 200 pledged delegates, okay? If a candidate wins 40% of the vote, those are the regular people who go and vote in the primaries and the caucuses. If a person wins 40% of the vote, they get about 40% of the delegates, roughly. So let's say a state has 200 pledged delegates. 40% of the vote will give you about 80 delegates from that state. Because Democratic rules say that all of the delegates are awarded proportionally. So that's how that works. Now, super delegates are delegates that could vote for whoever they want to. These are party elders and elected officials and stuff like that. So, thus far, Hillary has won 1,141 delegates. Pledged delegates, Bernie has won 826 pledged delegates. Okay, so he's about 300 or so behind. Okay, so with super delegates, Hillary, there are 712 super delegates total. There are 4,051 pledged delegates, and there are 712 super delegates. Of those super delegates, Hillary has a support of 472. Okay, Bernie has a support of only 23. Okay, so when you add those together, Hillary has a total of 1,613 delegates. Bernie has 849 delegates. Now, that's a big sizable lead. Now, the Bernie people will say it's not fair to count super delegates right now because they could change their mind. And he's right about that. They're right. Because we saw this in 2008 when super delegates started switching from Hillary to Obama after he proved to be a more viable candidate. Okay? So, let's take the super delegates out this equation for a second, okay? And let's just look at the pledged delegates and see what it would take for them to win a nomination with just the pledged delegates, okay? So, there are 2,084 delegates left to be won throughout the rest of the contest, okay? And Bernie would need 1,557 of the pledged delegates to win a nomination. That's 74.7% of the remaining delegates. That means he would have to win about 75% of the vote in all of the remaining contests in order to get the nomination with pledged delegates, okay? Not going to happen, okay? It's possible, but it's about as much as possible as me winning the Powerball, okay? You would need some type of political nuclear bomb to be dropped right in the middle of this campaign for something like that to happen, okay? Now, to be fair, Hillary Clinton needs to win about 59.6% of the remaining delegates. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's an unlikely scenario. It's doable, but they will be asking a lot. It's doable, but I don't think that's going to happen either. Okay? So, what gives? All right? Now, the number we have to look at, if we have to take away the 2383 just for a second, okay? If we're not going to do this with your super delegates, we need to take away the 2383 because that number includes the super delegates, okay? So we're gonna look at another number, and I'm going to explain this. See, in 2008, Barack Obama didn't win a nomination just with the pledged delegates. He won more pledged delegates than Hillary, but it wasn't 2383. The super delegates are who put him on over the top. Okay, So, is it possible that a candidate can have less of the pledged delegates and still win a nomination? Yes, if the super delegates put them over the top. I don't think that's going to happen. Uh, the party will be accused of stealing the nomination away from the voters, away from the people. So, I don't think that's going to happen. All right? And this is why Bernie people don't want the super delegates to be counted yet, because they are still going to try to catch Hillary and beat her in the pledge delegate contest. And then they can make the case to the super delegates and say, look, we got more pledged delegates. You guys need to come over and support us. So, in order to win the majority of the pledged delegates, what you need is 2026. 2026. That's the majority of the pledged delegates. Okay? Now, again, I said there are 2,084 delegates left to be remaining, so let's leave that alone for a second. Let's look at this, how to get to this majority here. If you could get to, it's a race to 2026. If whoever gets there first can make a case for the super delegates, and then get put over the top to win a nomination. So then if you use 2026, then the numbers look a little bit more friendlier. Bernie Sanders will need 57.6% of the remaining delegates in order to win to get the majority of the pledged delegates. Hillary would only need 42.5%. Now the Bernie people are saying, "Hey, this is doable because, for so far, the map has favored Hillary Clinton. You know, the demographics of the states that's already voted so far has been heavily in Hillary Clinton's favor. But now the map is starting to favor Bernie. Okay, when we look at the demographics of the map that's coming up, and the contest that's coming up, that heavily favor Bernie. So he could do this. So I'm going to look at this map and see how it could work. Okay, now." Basically, what I did was I looked at the upcoming states that's coming up, and I singled out the delegate-rich states, the states that's got a lot of delegates to be won. So, basically, I singled out Washington, Arizona, Wisconsin, New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Indiana, California, and New Jersey. All those delegates added up together is 1,477. Okay? Now, Washington's 101 delegates. I think Bernie's going to win Washington State because it's a very liberal state. Bernie's a very liberal candidate. I'm going to split that 70-30 in his favor. I'm going to say he's going to win 70% of the vote in Washington State. That should net him about 71 delegates, okay, from there. Now, Arizona. Now, again, these are pledged delegates. Arizona, there are 75 delegates. Now, Arizona, the demographic makeup looks a lot like Nevada. Hillary Clinton won Nevada by about 6 points. A heavy Mexican Latino population, sizable black population. I think Hillary, now since Arizona's a primary, I think she does better in primaries than in caucuses. So I'm going to split that state 55-45 in Hillary Clinton's favor. So Bernie Sanders wins about 45% of the vote. That's 34 delegates. Okay. Wisconsin, 86 delegates. Now, that demographics of Wisconsin look a lot like Michigan and Illinois. Now, Michigan was a very, very close race. It's an industrial state. Okay, he won that state by 1 point. Hillary Clinton won Illinois by about 2 points, so it's very close. It's 50-50. So I'm going to split Wisconsin's delegates 50-50 down the middle and say Bernie Sanders walks away with 43 delegates. Okay, New York. This is one that's going to be tough, okay? New York is Hillary Clinton. That's where she lives now. That she represented that state as a senator for 8 years, so she won 2 Senate races there. She also beat Barack Obama in 2008 in New York. New York has a sizable black population and a nice amount of Latinos, too. It looks a lot like Florida, where she beat Bernie Sanders handily by over 30 points, okay? So I'm going to split New York 60-40 in Hillary Clinton's favor, okay? And that's being generous. I'm going to split it, so I'm going to say Bernie Sanders walks away with 40% of the vote in New York. That's 99 delegates. Okay, Maryland, Hillary will win that. Big black population there. Obama kicked her butt in 2008 there. She's getting the support Obama had. She's likely to win. Maryland, I don't think anybody will argue that. I'm going to split that 60-40 in Hillary Clinton's favor. So 40% of those delegates go to Bernie Sanders. That's 38 delegates. Okay, Pennsylvania. That's a big delegate prize, 189 delegates, okay? Pennsylvania, the demographics look a lot like Ohio, okay? Because Ohio had 2 or 3 cities that are major urban population areas. like Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Columbus. Okay, Pennsylvania has Philadelphia. They have Pittsburgh and stuff like that. And it's an industrial Rust Belt state that Bernie tends to do well in. But Hillary Clinton beat Bernie in Ohio. She beat him by like 13 points. So I'm going to be generous and split Pennsylvania in Hillary's favor by 10 points, 55-45. So I'm going to say he gets 45% of the delegates there. It's 85 delegates. Okay? Indiana. Indiana's a state that looks like Illinois. Same reasoning that I used for Wisconsin. Split that 50-50. That's 42 delegates for Bernie Sanders. Okay? California. That one is tough to call. Okay? California has 475 delegates. That's the biggest prize of them all. Okay? Hillary beat Obama in California in 2008, so she knows the state. However, California is a very liberal state, but they also have many urban populated areas in California too. Oakland, Los Angeles, San Diego. So, but again, like I said, it's a very liberal state as well, so it's hard to call that one. But I'm going to be generous, and I'm going to give California to Bernie, and I'm going to split that state 55-45 in Bernie's favor, giving him 55% of the vote. Okay, so that's 261 delegates that he can win from California. New Jersey is another hard one to call. It's next to New York, Hillary Clinton country, but it's a closed primary, just like New York. That's another reason why I gave it to New York, because independents can't vote in the New York primary, and independents can't vote in the New Jersey primary. But I still think Bernie has a decent chance in New Jersey, so I'm going to split that 50-50. Okay, so 63 delegates go to Bernie Sanders. So when you add up all the delegates that I assume Bernie Sanders will win from these states, that's 665 delegates. Okay? Now, there are a lot of delegates that I haven't mentioned yet. It's about 540-some delegates that I haven't mentioned yet. 549 delegates I haven't mentioned yet. Okay? From the states that I haven't even talked about, like Connecticut, which Bernie will probably win, and Oregon, which Bernie will probably win. Okay? And Puerto Rico, which Hillary will probably win. Okay? So let's take those delegates. They're 549. Let's say Bernie, give him 70% of those delegates. Okay, since the Bernie people think the map favors him, let's give him 70% of all of those delegates in those states I haven't talked about. Okay, so that means when you take Bernie's 826 pledged delegates that he's already won so far, add them to the 665 delegates that I assigned him from the delegate-rich states, and then give him 70% of the remaining delegates that I haven't talked about. That's another 384. When you add that all up, that's 1,875 total pledged delegates, okay? So what that means is that he doesn't get to 2026. He'll be about 209 delegates short of so he would have caught up to Hillary Clinton, but he'd still be 209 delegates short of winning that magical number where you can make the case to the super delegates. All right? Now, are my numbers unfair? That's for you to decide. A lot of Bernie people say, yeah, they're unfair. I don't think my numbers are unfair. I think they're realistic. But even if you were to say, okay, Bernie could win some of these states by bigger margin, or some of the states Hillary won in, she could win by smaller margins. 209 delegates is a really hard deficit to make up from that projection. That's still a very big deficit to make up. Can he do it? It's possible, but I don't think it's unlikely for that to happen. I don't think Bernie Sanders should drop out, because I think he has a very important message, and it's a message that I happen to agree with. I think that he's pushed Hillary Clinton to the left, which is good for the party. So I don't think he should drop out. But I do think he probably needs to lay back on the attack some, because this math is tough, and numbers don't lie. Okay, it's a very, very tough road ahead. So I think Bernie people need to start preparing himself for the likely possibility that he could lose. Okay, that's my analysis right now. Thank you all for listening. Peace out.